Hi, my name is Elvinas. Thanks for stopping at my channel. In this video, I'm going to break down my color grading workflow in these three different scenes. The first scene is the office scene of a close-up guy. The second one is welding scene, and the third one is the scene from the record store. The first two scenes are recorded using Pocket 6K camera, and the third one is recorded using Pocket 4K camera. I'm using Davinci Resolve 18, and I'm going to be using color space transform and also pre-installed film looks by Davinci Resolve. So I'm excited to share my workflow. Let's get to Davinci Resolve and let's start color grading. Alright, so let's start with this gentleman. What I'm going to do is to create a very basic node tree. And I'm going to choose color space transform, and input color space I will choose Blackmagic Video Gamma Gen 4/5, input gamma Film Gen 5, output color space Davinci White Gamut, and output gamma Davinci Intermediate. And we're going to convert that again, and we're going to select color space transform and convert that Davinci White Gamut and Davinci Intermediate to Rec 709 and Cineon Film Log. I'm doing this because I'm going to use film emulation LUT that is in Davinci Resolve, which is 3313D60. I'm gonna just add an extra node. Right now, let's do the basic balancing in the camera raw section. So I'm just gonna decrease the midpoint a bit, increase the contrast, and slightly bit black level, and still decreasing the midpoint a bit. Moving on, we're gonna work on his face. So we're going to decrease a bit those highlights on his forehead. We don't want it to be too shiny, and just slightly bit play with the curves so it gives a better look for his face. Next one, I'm gonna use again window. So I'm gonna use the window on his face, and I'm gonna inverse it in order to edit the surroundings around him. So I'm just gonna lower down a bit of a brightness using again curves, and it kind of looks good, but I still am gonna adjust the tint. I think I'm gonna lower the tint to around 3. Alright, so here it is. This is the final image before and after. Moving on to this shot. So this I filmed in one of the company, and I find the shot quite cool. So for this specific scene, I'm not going to use any film emulations. I'm just gonna do the color space transform, using again same settings as I used before. And on the last node, I'm gonna do again color space transform, and I'm gonna use as input color space Davinci White Gamut, input gamma will be Davinci Intermediate, output color space will be Rec 709, and gamma will be 2.4. Alright, let's do the editing. So we're gonna start with camera raw, and I think I'm gonna go and lower the midpoint a bit. And I think the white balance was not set correct, so I need to adjust that. I think it was 3200, looking better, and I'm gonna decrease the tint to 0. Again, adjusting the midpoint a bit, lowering it to make more dramatic look. And I'm going to increase the contrast. Don't forget to click highlight recovery. And moving on to the next node, we're gonna play a bit with color warper tool, and I want to decrease those blues and make them more like teal. I really like the red curtain that is there, and I think green and red would look pretty cool for this scene. So I'm just gonna make those blues more like tint-ish. So that's what I'm adjusting. I see it gets a bit too cold, so I'm just gonna increase the temperature slightly bit. Next on, we're going to adjust those reds. So again, I'm going to use the color warper tool. I'm just going to increase the red just to create even more saturated reds. Alright, now with the window tool, we're going to mark the character, and I'm gonna inverse that, and I'm gonna just lower the brightness of the image surrounding the character to create more depth. Next node, I'm gonna use again window tool, and I'm gonna mark the main character again, and I'm gonna do some slight adjustments using curves. So I'm playing with the curves a bit, just seeing how the character looks. Some minor adjustments to the main character of the scene. And I think I'm gonna come back to the previous node and decrease the overall midtones and darks of the image surrounding the character. On the next node, I think the top area of the image is still a bit too bright, so I think I'm gonna lower the exposure of the top area of the image. I think this image might be nice if it has some grain, so I'm gonna add some film grain. I'm coming back, doing slightly more adjustments, just lowering the midpoint a bit, and I think that's it. And here we have before and after. We have another shot that I made, and it was slow-mo. So what I'm gonna do is just apply the grade and do some camera raw adjustments. I'm gonna increase the midpoint so it's not darker than the previous scene. And here we have the final image. The third scene is this very nice record shop, and I built this very simple node tree, and again I'm going to do color space transform as previously. Here I'm going to use film emulation. First color space transform, and then let's add the film LUT, and I'm going to select 3313D65. It's a bit colder. Here we clearly can see that white balance is off. I think it should be 3200. And we're lowering midpoint, and now we're gonna just play with the curves and create even more depth and contrast. Again, I'm using power window, and I will address the top area of this image, and I'll just adjust all the bright areas of the top of the image. And what I want a viewer to focus is that amazing vinyl, so I'm gonna select that again with power window and inverse that and adjust the area around it. I'm gonna create extra node, and again I think I'm gonna use some grain here. Alright, so I'm gonna select 35mm 400D grain. We're not gonna go into specifics. And here we have the footage before and after. I'm just gonna apply the grade to the different scene and make some adjustments because the placement of camera is different. So I'm just gonna play with curves and power windows, adjust them to this current scene. And here we have the final image, before and after. Alright, that is it. This is how I color grade footage. I hope you guys got inspired and gonna go out and film something and then color grade. If you have any comments, leave them in the comments below. Like this video, and of course subscribe would be awesome. So have a great week ahead, and see you guys next time.